You bring the energy, he'll do the rest. Martinez and Company, powered by Sports Radio 102.9 The Game.
You're going to hear it right here.
The show starts now.
You have to believe in yourself. If you don't believe in yourself, no one else will. My name is Taryn Peterson. I am from Jacksonville, Florida, Duval County, and I run the 200, 400, 4x1, 4x4, anything, long sprints. I started running track when I was 9 years old. That seems like a long time, but I felt like it was like the perfect time to start. Not too young, not too old. And I just stayed committed from then until now, and it brought me a lot of success. I'm always committed. I'm a hard worker. Anything we do at practice, I come out here, I put it all on the line. Stay focused, stay committed. As long as you believe in yourself, anything you put your mind to, you can do, you can accomplish. I want to leave an impact on the track. I want to come back, look back at the team and see, hey, like, we did this, we were a part of this for the team to be where they are now.
I start with that, and I welcome you all in to Martinez Company here on a Friday. Yes, a Football Fridays. We try to recap a lot of things that end up happening throughout the week as well, as we'll get into the football picks a little bit later on. Our pigskin picks of the week, we'll pick those. But I wanted to start with that video from USF Cross Country, and that is Taryn Peterson. As she mentioned, stay focused, stay committed, and as long as you believe in yourself, anything you put your mind to, you can do and you can accomplish. That is the theme for today. That will be the theme for this weekend as USF football will host the Miami Hurricanes. That is a huge task on hand for USF. I'm also going to bring up a little bit later on here a clip as well of the USF football coaches weekly show, so you guys can see exactly where you can get that from where. From there, you can also always visit sr1029thegame.com and click on USF logo, and it'll take you over to the website as well if it makes it a little bit easier for everyone. But you start out with that because you have to have a bit of motivation. And yes, I switch hats over from Pete's show to my show because why? Yes, you have to believe a little bit. You have to believe the Eagles are going to do something. But the reason why I started with USF because you have so many different choices of university you can go to. Plenty of them. Cal, Bama, Gator Nation, Canes, where else? Ohio State, the Ohio State, as a lot of people like to talk about it. But think about it. You come to Southwest Florida, the center part of the state here in Tampa Bay, or as a lot of people still call it Tampa Bay, even though they're just about 2 seasons or so separated from Stanley Cup and Super Bowl championship. But that's the reason why people want to come here. It is that championship feeling. USF is that school that is finally making, and I'm not just talking about this year. I'm talking about as the programs have evolved. Men's basketball, women's basketball, men's soccer, women's soccer, lacrosse, right? Cross country. These students that are coming here are not only smart, but they also want to make good choices, and that's by coming by USF. By the way, they are accepting applications, not only for fans, obviously for enrollment as well. And you can always visit USF on their website. But if you guys want to see everything as far as athletics, USF Go Bulls, visit the website as well. So you guys can see exactly what they're all putting together. If you witnessed last night's soccer match on the pitch, and Gayak could have been rattled if she wanted to on the early goal that came in. I even put a tweet out before the match even started of how Rice was going to bring it, and they did. Within the first 5 minutes, end up getting a goal. But that didn't shatter Galak whatsoever. Why? Because of the clean sheet she just came off with, and then they're able to fend off and hold off Rice for a 2-1 victory last night. This soccer team, now I'll bring up the stats here momentarily. I also bring up the 2 goals. They were done last night on the pitch. USF is starting to be that university. Again, you talk about Ohio, the university. USF is that university. They're also having a brand new facility built for the USF football. And believe me, Ray J is a nice stadium. I know I love my Lincoln Financial Field. Don't get me wrong, because I'm always going to be Philly first. But residing here, living here in Tampa, this team, this university, what everyone at USF is doing is building such an amazing impact, not only here locally, but folks are really starting to feel the impact of USF. So I'm not here to sell you a huge bill of goods when it comes to USF, because they're doing it all by themselves. The student body does it. If you guys go to any of the games anywhere, you'll feel it. You'll feel the energy. As you're driving up to USF, you can feel the impact. So I can't wait for basketball season to start off. Volleyball won their match last night. There is so much going on at USF that you just have to be a fan. Again, I know they're in high competition. UCF is across the state over in Orlando. Again, Gator Nation to the north, the Canes to the south, Fort Seminoles. I mean, there's plenty of it. But for whatever reason it is, maybe it's Coach Golish, maybe it's Coach Brown. Who knows? Coach Hernandez? Who knows? All I know is, even though I'm not wearing a USF hat per se, but the green and white comes out, just like the green and gold for USF, it is just amazing to me what this university is doing, how much they care. I mean, they get sponsored. Not only do they have a Publix right there at USF, that's a major sponsor. You're talking, and they're in AAC. So you look at, could they possibly be in a whole different conference? They could. But USF is going to continue to raise the standards. You guys see it. Hashtag raise the standards. Hashtag right horns up. There is a reason why USF is now becoming a destination. It happened with the Bucks, with Tom Brady when he was here. It's happened with the Lightning, even though the Lightning now, they're going to go through their sudden changes in order to get back to winning Lord Stanley once again. And the Rays, the same exact way. It's going to take a minute for the Rays to get back to where they were. I mean, last year, this year, two different things, but they have a new venue that's coming up. They got a brand new stadium that'll be here by 2027. So yeah, do you have to put pieces into place to make it now an attraction landing spot when a new stadium comes around, which I'm pretty sure all of us are going to love, not only obviously what the new Rays house is going to look like. We don't know what the name's going to be as of yet. I'm pretty sure Tropicana probably won't keep their name up there, so who knows? It'll go to highest bidder. But I can't wait to see what USF is going to do for this. And they released a sketch of what the student section is going to end up looking like. So that's going to be awesome. So USF, if you guys don't know, they may not be the university, but they are definitely that university. And with that being said, thank you all for joining me here. I am Angel Martinez. Martinez, the company on Sports Radio 102.9 FM. The Game, of course, you guys can download the app directly from the homepage at sr1029thegame.com, as you see there up on your screen. So therefore, you won't miss a show, possibly highlights that are coming soon, other scheduled shows that are in there like Cat and Pat, Let's Chat with Cat and Pat, Marshall's Time Podcast, and others that are coming. A new show that will be coming here probably within the next week. And I'll announce that come Monday once we get that all situated. So there's always something new happening here at the Coastal Sports Network. Of course, all part of the Broad Street South Network, which was started back during the pandemic. And God bless and God thank you guys for coming back, the support, the love. It is definitely appreciated. It is not the easiest thing in the world to do when you co-host, executive produce one show, host your own show, then switch gears once again. And not only do you have to cut up audio, cut up video in the whole 9 yards, but I do it because I love it and because you guys come back for the love and support. And I do appreciate every single one of you, including USF. So some of the topics on the line that we'll get into. And if anybody thought that Aaron Rodgers hug thing, whatever you want to call it, was weird, he mentions it. Robert Salah mentions it. So I'll show up the one later on in the video about how Aaron Rodgers described it, which I don't know. I don't know if people are either okay with Aaron Rodgers anymore, or are they just getting tired of the whole thing? The Patriots, I mentioned to Pete last night, and even on his show, that they made the Jets look better than what they seem to be. Now, I'm not going to knock Jets fans altogether because, yes, it was a win. It was a good win. Aaron Rodgers threw 2 touchdowns. You know, I just, to me, if you're going to build a future with the Jets, 4 years old, he came back from an injury. You know, Al Michaels, Kirk Herbstreit, you guys heard it mentioned last night on Thursday Night Football. By the way, Nikki Glazier, great job afterwards as she cut it up after the game was over. But the Jets need to find now past Aaron Rodgers. But you guys know whoever they bring in as the backup, and if they go through the draft this year, which they should, take a look at the draft stock and see what end up, what they have, what's available. But if that being the case, you don't know what's going to happen. None of us know what's going to end up happening. That being the case here in for the Jets. So they're going to have to build up. They're going to have to find a replacement. The problem is that we all know that Aaron Rodgers doesn't like to be replaced. We saw that with Jordan Love. So this is going to be quite interesting, to say the least. So we'll get into that a little bit later on. Joel Embiid's in section. Sixers fans, are either you excited? You know, is he worth the 192? Some people have been saying $193 million. I don't know. Joel Embiid has not. You heard Gabe Morency mention it. He's, you pay the man, but he, probably the best analogy, he says he's like the Dak Prescott. You paid him, but does he show up? He shows up during the regular season. During the playoffs, we don't see it. So I don't know. Phillies are finding ways to struggle to win. And the postseason is just about upon us. I mean, it is what, September 20th? We only got a handful of games left. So it's interesting to see. Very, very interesting to see what's going to happen with the Sixers. Obviously, new venue. We know that. Mayor Parker out in Philly talked about it. She said there's going to be a video later on to follow, like the details, how it came together. You know, what's it mean for Chinatown? What's it mean for Center City? The congestion is going to come along with it, which is going to be a lot because it's going to be in Center City. So there's so much to get into there. And we'll mention it later on. Baker Mayfield mentions also about people asking him, like, was Tom Brady not approachable when he was there? So he mentions that. And also the White Sox. Britt Ghiroli talks about the White Sox and how the fallout continues with the White Sox. I don't know what's going to happen come next season. Do they keep their interim manager? Who knows? I don't know. So we'll get into that and a couple other things as well. But I wanted to start off with, if I go take myself back here to the video element portion of it, as the women's soccer last night, 2 goals, what was needed. And I'll take you to the first one, which ended up being the equalizer. Rice ended up taking the early lead in the match. And I believe, if I flip back to my notes here, it was about right around the 5th minute when Rice ended up their first goal. It was right around the 5th minute because the 8th minute was the one with Malika Hill that you guys will end up seeing now. But USF, this team, let me switch video screens here. This team is, I've been saying they're resilient. I can't wait to see how they're going to keep doing in the conference. They got their first conference win last night, being a big one. But here was the equalizer last night on the pitch.
I mean, and again, for Sarah Bruner to come down that line, she finds Michaela Hill, and Michaela Hill does a great job at just being calm and.
Now, there were notables that I mentioned last night. Fatah Sutter, who ended up assisting with a goal. There was a lot of notables last night in the match and on the pitch. It was such a solid win for the ladies. The second half pretty much belonged to, if you think about it defensively, definitely belonged to USF, but it didn't mean that Rice did not take their foot off the pedal, as Rice had opportunities to be able to score. A couple times, Sutter had one, which I'm pretty sure she would love to have back, wide open, and it looked like her foot just hit the grass, and she wasn't able to nail it the way she wanted to. But nonetheless, here is the second goal of the game, so that USF will go up 2-1.
Her second of the season.
Again, the confidence from Sadie Snyder-Eckenberg right here. She knows where she is on the field. She takes that extra time.
Her second of the season.
Sadie, Sarita Thurton. I mean, both of these ladies, these young athletes, I mean, they were everywhere last night on the pitch. Everywhere. If you guys watched the game on ESPN Plus, which you can always go back and watch the game as well. But those ladies, the contribution first, and I hope to have come next week, Coach Brown, Sarita Thurton, and Anna Suter on the show. So we'll get into some more USF soccer as women continue to win. This team has been quite incredible. And you got to figure it. You guys hear me mention this, but after that loss to Florida State, 6 wins for this team, 2 draws. At home right now, dare I almost say unstoppable, the way they've been playing. But again, they could have fallen back last night on the match, but they didn't because USF continues to put on the pressure to the teams that are facing. Last night being the first conference win. But again, I'm just going to recap here. Back on August 15th, when it all started against number 1 Florida State, the defending champs, by the way, they lost 5-0. Since then, August 18th versus Jacksonville, 5-1 win. Against Southern, August 21st, 5-0 win. Then they had back-to-back clean sheets with Glock as they had FGCU, a 4-0 win. August 29th at Kansas. End up tying, which ended up bringing up the draw, 1-1. Then they come home versus UCF. 1-0 shutout there. They go on to Charlotte. Again, another draw, 0-0. And then Stetson, which we all remember was just on Sunday with the salute to service, that was a 2-0 win. And then last night against Rice, a 2-1 victory. And I want to bring up the recap here because it being such a fun game last night. And again, this team, the contributors, which is the entire bench for Coach Brown, he is setting up everyone in the right positions. I know Sarita Thurman was shifted backwards on the back end of the line, but guess what? Everywhere you look, if there was a picture, and I'm not signaling anybody here, but you talk about team performance or team player, Sarita Thurman's picture is going to be in there. Why? Because you see her everywhere on the pitch. Anna, everywhere on the pitch. Sadie, everywhere. These women are coming to play, and they know that at this point, they can make a solid run, hopefully, as it'll get closer to playoff time. But I don't want to go any further than that because you never want to jinx a team. I know it's kind of silly. As a broadcaster, you don't think, you couldn't jinx a team, but I sure as heck don't want to do that. Rice, who now are 7-2-1, USF Bulls, 6-1-2, 1-0-1 in conference play. Last night, Leah Chansey was the first one to make the goal. That was at 4:35 last night, rounded up to the 5th minute, but 4:35. She was assisted by Taylor Risch. The goal was by Rice Cheney, lead assist again, Risch Taylor. That made it 1-0. And then not too far after that was Michaela Hill with the equalizer, assisted by Sarah Brunner. That made it 1-1. And then in the 14th minute, 15th, if you heard it last time on the broadcast, was Sadie Sider-Eckenberg, all by her lonesome. And again, Anna had there was opportunities last night, a couple big ones, even with Fatah, a couple of big ones where it was just either just a bit too much air behind it or, just missed opportunities. But nonetheless, they do walk away with the match win. Goals again, 2-1 shots. Last night, USF had 16 compared to the 6, half as much as what Rice had. Saves, and then the shots on goal, was 7 for USF, 4 for Rice. On the saves, it was 3 attempts, only 1 obviously had passed on Galak, and then 5 saves for Rice, even though they only gave up 2 as well. 4 corner kicks for USF, 1 for Rice, 2 offsides, none for Rice there. And then on the fouls, it was 9 for USF, 8 for Rice. And I tell you what, this team is looking so well and so dominant. And then the game leaders last night was Sadie Sider-Eichenberg last night with 4 shots and 1 goal. Michaela Hill with 3 shots, 1 goal. And then you had Sarah Brunner with the assist. And again, Fatah, she had 2 shots last night as well. And no goals, but like I said, there was just a couple opportunities that were coming up for USF women's soccer that they looked so poised last night. They looked so well. This team just does not know how to stop, but in a good way. Always want to see the Coach Brown and his coaching staff continues to put USF in winning places. That's just the way that we want it. Regardless, it's the way we want it. So we hope that we'll continue seeing the women do well. I want to bring up the schedule here, as I know their next one is coming up. Like I said, next week, hopefully we will have two of the athletes on, along with Coach Brown. I'll keep you guys posted on social medias. The next one will be at Florida Atlantic at FAU. That would be Thursday, September 26th, as they hit the road, and then they're back home against Memphis for Alumni Day, which is September 29th. So that should be well. So again, 6-1-2. This team, a 2-game win streak. I mean, you're talking about clean sheets. Galak is, they had awards earlier during the week, honorable mentions as well, but becoming one of the better goalies out there in the AAC. And who knows how she end up at the end of the season, but was not rattled at all yesterday. Good, solid win by the women, 2-1. And I mentioned earlier as well, let me make sure that let me do something here as I have to play double the pleasure, double the fun here. I just got to waiting for someone here to connect, so make sure that I put them on standby. But for the women, and I'll wait. Hopefully, the person will end up calling back. Looks like Penguin AZ. Sorry, folks, as I have to play triple duty here when I'm by my lonesome here. Good morning, hermano. This is from Penguin AZ. Angel Martinez coming in. Hermano, muchas gracias. Thank you for tuning in. I know Gas Pump Guy is trying to call in, but he's calling in on another line. I need him to call in on the studio line. So Gas Pump Guy, if you're trying to call in, call the studio line. I know we're going to get into the Bucks weekly report as well. So we'll get into that. But I also mentioned as well earlier on with the men's USF football from USF Athletics. I want to bring this up as I wait for Gas Pump Guy to come in as well in the conversation. But if you guys have not watched the coaches show, you guys can see it on YouTube. But here is a weekly segment. As they mention the upcoming game, this is going to be a big test for USF. The biggest test they're going to have this season. Don't forget, coming off a bowl win last season, not last week, off of last season. But this is going to be a true test for USF football. So I want to bring up just a small clip from their weekly coaches show.
I'm glad you've seen that.
Well, these are the hard-hitting questions we all want to know.
That's a good question. I've never had nobody ask me that question. It is. Yeah.
You're really into that, yeah?
I am. She got me.
You got to help me out on this one.
No, it's cool.
Are you going to be able to temper your defensive line coach?
Yeah, KP's been in these games really on both sides. You should be proud of your alma mater. But both those guys are so invested in this place and are so invested in their players and are so invested in what we're building here. They would tell you they're certainly Bulls.
So again, USF, if you guys have not heard, they are not the university, they are that university. And I'm really proud to be able to cover USF this season, try and bring you as much content as I possibly can for the university, especially when it comes to women's soccer. Basketball, again, will be firing up here shortly. So USF basketball will start up before we know it, the same way for the men and women. So that will be here before we know it for sure. So on the line, normally I would go into a break here, but because we started the show just a tad bit later with Gabe Morency was on with Pete Shepard. On the line with me for his weekly Bucks report, it is Gas Pump Guy. Gas Pump Guy, how are you?
I'm doing good. I'm excited about that game tomorrow. I heard you talking about USF earlier and the Hurricanes coming up there. I think that the USF match is going to be one of the toughest games that the Hurricanes have played so far. Yeah, at the beginning of the season, everybody said it was going to be the Florida Gators, but we realized that they ain't nothing and they're not going to be anything. So I think this team, because I've followed USF, like I said, my son's teacher is alumni from there. So, we talk all the time or whatever. But I think this team is going to be a real test defensively and offensively.
They are. It's going to be a big test for them. I can't wait to see it. I mean, the coverage come tomorrow as I'll be down there at Ray J. It should be a lot of fun. It should be a great Hopefully the weather will hold out. We all know that we're still here in the summer officially until what, the 20th or I think today's the first day of fall. I don't know. The seasons here in Florida, they all run together.
Yeah.
So it doesn't bother me. Anybody can say whatever they want to, but for me, it's all the same as far as weather-wise down here. Before we get into this Denver-Tampa Bay game, and you mentioned quickly about the Gators, if you got it, well, two teams actually here in Florida, Gators, Seminoles. You're the head coach, Gaslam guy. You really got to think like that seat has got to be on fire so much that I don't think both of them probably sat down at all at their chairs at their respective schools, because I don't think anybody saw the Gators doing as bad as they are so far earlier on in the season. I don't see them, either them and or Seminoles, obviously bowl eligible, unless, you get whatever the lower bowls are, the Bide Here bowl and whatever else is out there. But I think there's a lot of people really, really surprised on how bad the Gators and the Seminoles are this season.
Yeah, I mean, it's just so funny that last year the Seminoles were all up and roar that, oh, we should have been in, we're better than them, all this and that. But it seems like karma's kind of came around and bit them in the butt, and now they're not that good anymore.
They're not. That's the big one. They're not that good. And I'm just, again, you prepare throughout. Once the season's over, everybody knows it's done earlier in college, because it also starts earlier as well in college football. But I don't think anybody really expected to see what both teams are end up doing here. But again, going back to USF here for a second, the big thing being that with USF and Coach Galesh, it's just, this team is, last year, first season here, comes off a bowl. This year, he wants to feed off the success they've had so far, and not bad. It's just, I want to see how well they're going to stand up against Miami, because Cam Ward, listen, you talk about, it's so hard to describe Cam Ward, because he is the consummate professional, where he can break down the game, talk about the game, could almost be a broadcaster at the same time while being out on the field. I mean, the kid's incredible. But for what he's doing for Miami, and I don't, listen, dare I say for your team there, for the Canes, Cam Ward, it's like one of those rare quarterbacks that either come from the portal, transfer, you name it. My thing is, I'm pretty sure his draft stock is going to go up tremendously. But is this only a one and done type season for the Canes? Because you guys have been waiting so long to finally to get back there where people are talking. So has anyone even thought about that at the end of this season, it is a really good possibility Cam Ward's going to be gone?
It's funny you say that. I'm more like you. Like, I want you to prove, not that they haven't proven that they're good. I get that, but I'm the type of person that, yeah, they're 3-0 and they're doing good, but let's see how it goes farther down as we get more into the season and heaven forbid an injury pops up or whatever, So I'm not really excited, but I'm excited, if that makes sense.
No, it does.
I have thought about if Cam Ward, because we're gonna lose the kicker Borregales. We're losing him after this year because this is his last year. And Restrepo, we're going to lose him after this year.
Yeah.
So Restrepo, he's awesome. He's a phenomenal wide receiver. That dude catches balls that I don't even know how he caught. So I have thought about it, and I just hope that whoever we have waiting to take the next man up, I'm hoping that they're at least halfway decent, to at least keep the momentum going, keep building on the momentum. You know what I mean? Even if we don't make it to the national championship or whatever, and we get really close to it, I'll be happy, because we haven't been that close in a long time,
Yeah, no, that's what I want to see that as well, because it's going to be really good. I'm hoping for Restrepo. I would love to see him as a Philadelphia Eagle, personally. That's just me. I would love to see him as an Eagle, because he's got some speed. He's got a lot of toughness to him. So I want to see it. But Miami, again, this season, I know we're focused upon this season, but reality is, come November, the borrowed services from Cam Ward are definitely going to be missed again if he chooses to go into the NFL draft. He could stay for another season at Miami if he wanted to. I mean, we saw Tim Tebow, years ago, where he decided with the Gators, like he was going to go. Then he was like, no, he made this big deal, decided hanging around, blah, blah, blah. And then, of course, he went on to playing football, never really excelled, tried baseball. That didn't work out too well either, but it's fine because, he's a great human being. Wait until he was married to be able to do adult activities, to put it in the most PG terms I can possibly put it. But, I mean, he does well in the broadcast. So all I hope for is that USF can stand toe-to-toe on the gridiron come Saturday night. And hopefully the weather plays well, because the last thing that we need some crazy delay where the game doesn't kick off till like 10 or 11 o'clock at night. So hopefully end up being well. So I'm going to be talking to folks out there tailgating, which is always a good time out in Ray J. The tailgating parties are absolutely insane for USF. Oh, yeah. And so I think that's probably the only big thing that's going to be missed, because I don't know how they're going to be able to set it up once they're on campus, and how they're going to be able to do the tailgate there. But because Ray J has such a massive parking lot, and you go through there, it's like one tailgater is better than the next. But the nice thing is, though, no matter who comes in from out of town, I mean, you could stop anywhere and get a bite to eat, because the USF fans and the alumni, I mean, everybody's they're outstanding, honest to God. That's why I'm calling them. Matter of fact, I'm going to start the hashtag that university. That's going to be USF, because again, the university, which from Ohio State is taken. So I'm going to do the hashtag that university there for USF.
You can be like the Bengals with copying off of the Saints.
With a who dat?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's something original.
Yeah.
All right. I know I have Mike Fuji on the line as well. We'll get into some Eagles talk here in a minute. But Denver, Tampa Bay, Denver 0-2. Now with Tampa Bay coming off that huge win off Detroit. And there was somebody else too. I just came across one of Detroit's players had to change his cell number because the fans, how do you get, my thing is, and listen, I'm not asking anybody, so you guys relax out there, those who are listening and watching, but when does enough become enough where leave people's addresses alone, leave their homes alone, their personal cells, leave that stuff alone? Like when you have to go around and constantly change your number or do different things because you just randomly went through stuff and decided to put it out there. Like no athlete, like especially, I know they have different phones because, depending on who they speak with, like if you're talking to an Adam Schefter, there's always like different phone stuff to end up using, but you're coming off a game. I don't care if it's a win or loss. The last thing you want is, a bunch of bot messages coming across your phone, or it's just all this nonsense that you don't want to hear from. Folks, we love our teams. Don't get us wrong. We do. We love our teams. Be respectful. Don't put people's information out there. Just don't. I mean, keep things private. I know this world has gone upside down, but just keep things private as much as you possibly can, because it seems like almost Detroit fans are like one by one starting to pick off their own team.
Oh, yeah. It's crazy.
First, I want to say good morning, Angel. Good morning, guest, Punk Guy, and everybody. Happy Football Friday. It's funny you touch on that because I saw a report I think it was yesterday, saying that Dan Campbell either has to sell his house because apparently his address was put out there. So, I mean, speaking of the Lions, I guess. Actually, Will Levis had to change his number to quarterback.
Correct.
The Tennessee Titans.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yep. Yeah, I thought it was a Lions. You're right, Fuji.
But apparently Dan Campbell's, his address got put out there. And I don't know. So I guess he's got to like sell his house and move now or something.
Yeah, he said it. There's people.
Apparently he's getting threats.
Yeah, because they had people, it's not even as far as the threats. He feels like his family will be threatened. So he's not getting threats, but there's been people like outside of his home. Like I said, it becomes, I know people tease LeBron James for a while in his house in Cleveland, the one he had down in Miami, the other one he has in LA, like where he has, police officers are sitting out there that he pays for. It's not like he gets them for free, regardless of whatever his status is. He has to pay for that service because it's a private service, which is available if you have the money for it. But, because again, fans are just too much. I know Taylor Swift, and I'll get back to you for a second, but Taylor Swift, if everybody remembers her home in Tennessee, I believe, and the one even she had in LA, she allowed the fans to come to her home. Now, this is, I think, like 3 or 4 years ago, where it isn't as crazy as it is now. But even then, I understand, like, I know she really wanted to connect with her fan base, but you don't know truthfully who these people are. And I understand you're trying to be a loving, understanding person. You want to open up your heart to the fans and everything else. But it's your home. Your home is your castle. Like, try to keep it as private as you possibly can. But go ahead, Fooch.
I was going to say, well, if you go back to 1993 when the Phillies lost the World Series to the Toronto Blue Jays, Mitch Williams had eggs thrown in his house, and he was getting death threats.
Yep.
So, I mean, look how, how moronic, that is, like, with these dopes. I mean, it's pathetic.
It is.
I mean, just to threaten somebody because, I'm sure, it's happened since, and, it's just demented. I mean, it's really not, we all have a passion, but really at the end of the day, I mean, it's not that serious.
It's not, but it's,
as much as we love our sports.
Right.
I know some people are just over the top of it, and it's pretty pathetic and sad.
It is, because it shouldn't be that way. I mean, you think about coming home, like, it's not fair to his family, his kids, his wife, none of that stuff. And I remembered, it was like 2 years later when he went to Citizens Bank Park, and you would have thought people would be like, all right, it's 2 years after the fact. It's now 1995. Like, come on. Let's kind of get over it. Nope. They didn't get up either. They were still threatening him there at the ballpark, where it took him almost another 2 years before he even came back again.
Well, look at Bill Buckner with the Red Sox in the '86 World Series. I mean, I think ESPN did a 30 for 30 on that. Look at all the death threats and all that stuff. But years later, Bill Buckner went back to Austin and, got a standing ovation. Talk about a guy that, was under scrutiny for a long time. It's just, just to live with. You look at who was it? Scott Norwood, who missed the field goal for the Bills, and forget what Super Bowl it was, but when they lost to the Giants, he had threats.
Yep.
It's just like taken way beyond the extreme, and that's nobody should have to live, especially threats going to your kids, your family. Just that got me fired up.
No, but it shouldn't. It's the way it should be. The only thing, and I want to quickly, I'm going to get here to somebody that we know exactly where he lives because he puts it in his name. So it's not like that's a secret whatsoever, which is Dunkin' Dad. I mean, all you got to do is go to any Dunkin' Donuts and his picture's up there on the menu. They flip it over as soon as you walk in. You tell them you want the Dunkin' Dad special, and they'll tell them that your money's no good here. I don't know how far that'll go, but nonetheless, it is Dunkin' Dad. Dunkin' Dad, thanks for coming back here on a Football Friday.
Good morning, everybody out there in the radio world. Great day. It's Friday. It's pleasant here in the Northeast today. It's supposed to be, high 70s, low 80s, no humidity. So we're enjoying it. The windows are open, letting the air flow through. Get rid of this old mojo that we had at the beginning of the week with the Eagles. And hopefully they right the ship down to New Orleans. But, I'm taking that with a grain of salt and maybe one of those salt licks that you put outside for the deer.
Yeah, no, that's for sure. So we're going to hold off here for Eagles talk for a second because I want to make sure I get Gas Pump Guy in with his weekly segment for the Tampa Bay Bucks. So Gas Pump Guy, Baker Mayfield, we saw what he did last week in Detroit. Solid game, solid win by our Bucks down here in Tampa Bay. Fuji, before you open up your mouth, yes, because I know you want to say something.
I wanted to get that Tom Brady jersey out of the
car. Listen.
Just bring
smart
it to
guy.
the forefront.
Hey, you set yourself up for, you said our Bucks.
Well, because you're on the line. Number one.
Not to interrupt anybody, but that explains why you got that Tampa Bay Bucks helmet above, where it says Broad Street Sale.
Because it's been there since I put up the shelves. Listen,
I know, but I'm just letting the fans know that has been up for like 4 years. Well, since we started Broad Street South 4 years ago.
Yeah, well,
maybe a little bit after, but you did put that up there.
Yeah, no,
just to let everybody out there know around the world, around the United States. Proceed.
No, because listen, it was up there a little out, as the studio has grown, obviously, from where it started to where it is now, because the local teams down here, obviously the Lightning are down here. You have the Magic over there in Orlando, so that's all right, wise guy. And
I am rolling my eyes as of right now.
I know.
It's a shame I'm not on screen, but,
That's okay. Maybe next week I'll have you up on the screen, but that's okay. Listen, I got my Eagles hat on, which Duncan Dad can attest to because he can see it as well. And by the way, Penguin AZ says, good morning, fellas. Gaspam Guy, Fuji, and Duncan Dad.
Morning.
Good morning, everybody.
So, again, as we got rudely interrupted by one Mike Fuji.
Oh, I'm sorry. I am from Philly. No one likes us. We don't care, right, Duncan Dad?
I second that.
See, it's okay. I third it. Tampa Bay, Denver, Bo Nix still looking for first win for Denver. Denver not looking terribly bad. I mean, I would say that Denver is a slight upgrade almost about the Eagles because I'm not done putting my foot off the gas pedal when it comes to the Eagles. But nonetheless, it is now Tampa-Denver week as we turn the attention there. Baker Mayfield, we saw a fairly good run balance offense. Should we expect the same again this week against the Broncos?
Oh, I think so. I think they're finally starting to clicking with the run game. Like I said, Liam Cohen wants to he really wants to push the run. So I think we'll see a little bit more run and make it balance and with the passing game. I do think Godwin is going to have another great game because what's the guy? Sertan, I think is his name for the Broncos. He's going to be all over Mike Evans. So I think I don't discount that Godwin's going to have another big game this time.
I don't think so either, but we have to wait to see the injuries that plagued last week's games. A couple of guys that we know that they need to be back on the Bucs line, whether it be an O-line or a D-line, because again, this team, if they're planning on winning this division, we see what the Saints are doing right now. The Saints are also not going to let up either. And everybody's talked about how they've mentioned how the Saints are not going to give up and not just going to hand Tampa Bay the division. And we saw what they did last week in Dallas, which is great for us Eagles fans because that means that Dallas still sucks. And again, Dallas fans, as I use the term loosely because we do as well. So don't think that I'm just, harpooning you guys at the moment because we're in the same boat come this week. But New Orleans seems to be a completely different team. David Carr seems to be a lot more confident this season compared to what we saw last. Only 3 games coming up here in the NFL that we're looking at right now. Do you still believe, Gaspam Guy, even the way the way New Orleans is playing, is it still the Bucs division to lose?
I'm not as sure as I was when the season began. Because like you said, the Saints are really starting to come along, and it looks like they're starting to click a lot better. So they could pose a threat. Even in past, I think that's our biggest rival in the NFC South. Because whenever we play against the Saints, we always have a hard game. We always play hard, and there's always some kind of stupid penalty or something that starts everybody off, and then they start getting chippy, and then it just goes downhill from there. But the Saints are definitely coming along, and I'm not as sure now that the Bucs are going to run away with it if that's what you want to, if that's how you say it. I don't know.
No, that's fine. Yeah, no, it's fine because again, listen, you're being realist, right? And that's what we do. It looks one way at the start of the season. We see what happens during preseason, and then when the regular season starts, we start making the adjustments. How do we feel that our teams are going to end up doing as the regular rest of the regular season continues? You look at the Eagles, for example. I know a lot of people don't like exactly what I have to say, but I have not done, and I'm not trying to put such a negative light on the Eagles, but they've yet to prove anything from last year is gone because we're starting to see the same things. You got Nick Sirianni who comes into, again, his press conferences, and he talks about he's gotten together with Kellen Moore. I think there's a huge disconnect still there, which I'll get into it with Duncan Dad and with Fuji. But what do you expect out of Baker Mayfield this week?
I expect Baker to do Baker things. I mean, he's going to throw the ball when he needs to throw the ball, and he's going to tuck the ball and run when he needs to tuck and run. And that's the good thing I like about Baker is if he sees that he's not going to be able to do anything, he still wants to try to get positive yards. And that's not a quality that you see in a lot of quarterbacks nowadays. A lot of quarterbacks, if they can't see nothing, they're going to throw it away or, a little light pass. And Baker, he's got heart, man. I really do like Baker. He likes to push the boundaries, as they say, and it's just great watching him play.
All right. Because I know you have other things as well, so I want to make sure I get your picks in just in case you have to jump off the line here. But we're 5 games this week, and since I have the other fellas and Penguin AZ, since he's listening in as well, I'll get his. By the way, Duncan, Dad, also make sure that your lovely lady also lets us know what her picks will end up being. You can always send it to me later on, but I just want to make sure I get our picks in right now. So starting with, guess some guy, Chicago, Indianapolis. Who do you have there? That's going to be a tough one.
That is a tough one because, Justin Fields, he's doing pretty good. Anthony Richardson's doing all right. I'm still worried about both defenses. I'm going to go with the Colts.
All right. Fuji?
I'm going with the Bears because I'll say this.
And that's enough for Fuji, Duncan Dad?
Go ahead, Fuji. Wow, come on. I was watching the end of that Texans-Bears game, and it's like Houston dominated that first half, but when Joe Mixon got hurt and left, the Bears, technically, they should have won that game.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm going to go with the Bears.
Okay. Duncan Dad?
I'll take the Colts. You got to show me you can stop Jonathan Taylor before I commit to the Bears this year.
All right. I will take actually the Bears. I'm with Fuji. I think they should be able to pull this one off. I think the
Bears.
Yeah, I think a lot of folks are kind of, just like I mentioned about the Patriots, except for the Patriots, last night, the Patriots just look bad, period. I mean, it's the best way to put it, but the Bears do not look bad whatsoever. So I think, for me, I'll pull off when it comes to the Bears, and I'm waiting for Penguin AZ if he's listening in. If not, I'll get his picks a little bit later on, just so he says. All right, moving on to the next one here will be KC, Atlanta. These are not going to be easy picks this week. So KC, Atlanta, Duncan Dad, I'll start with you.
I'll take the Chiefs.
All right. Fuji?
The Chefs.
All right. GPG?
I'm going with the Chiefs also.
This might be a clean sweep. I know Gabe Morency said that Kansas City is bound to lose, and the way Atlanta played last week or this week against the Birds. I'm not feeling it's two different teams here, but Penguin AZ says he's going to take the Colts, so I got his. Penguin AZ, so I got his for the Colts. But to me, Atlanta, I think it was kind of like a fluke win at the Eagles' expense, but I don't see Kansas City losing, so I will as well, like you guys, take KC, and then I'll wait for Penguin AZ for him to text in through the app. He's going with the Chiefs as well, so pretty much a clean sweep unless we get one from Levon later on. So Penguin AZ, we'll write him down for that one. You know what? And I freaking screwed up here. No, okay, that's it. Now, next one. San Fran, LA Rams. Fuji, I'll start with you.
Niners. Too many injuries on the Rams team.
Do what?
Too many injuries on that Rams team.
It's not like San Fran's any better.
Oh, I know. Well, McCaffrey's out. Devo's nicked up. I'm going to go with San Fran. I mean, coming off that embarrassing loss to Minnesota, I'm sure they're going to be headhunting for Stafford.
Duncan?
I'm going to go with the Niners, too.
All right. I get the one from Penguin AZ in a second here, and then obviously Gaspon Guy.
Yeah, I'm going with the Niners also.
Yeah, everybody's going with the Niners. This one I'm kind of torn in between when it comes to the Niners and the Rams, because the Rams are due to win one. Obviously, Rams, they need a big win. So I don't know. Penguin AZ, if you're going, you know what? I'm going to go with the Rams. And I know it's any given Sunday. God knows I already picked freaking one stupid. I picked the Patriots last night just because of, Rick says Colts, Falcons, Rams. I forgot about Rick here. Colts, Falcons, and the Rams. So looks like Penguin AZ, myself, and Rick are going that way. Rick, then I'll need yours too from the next one that we'll be talking about here, which will be, I think the Rams are due for a big win. I think they'll end up doing it. I don't think they want to start out 0-3 the same way. I don't believe the Ravens want to start out 0-3 as well, but we're not going with the Ravens right now. We're talking Miami, Seattle, and Rick, Penguin AZ, sending your picks. Fuji.
What game is it? Seattle, Miami?
Miami and Seattle. Today
I want to
would
go
be nice.
Miami.
Miami?
Yeah.
All right. Duncan Dad?
Take the Seahawks.
All right. Rick takes the Seahawks as well. Guess one guy?
I don't know. I really like Miami, but now that Tua's not going to be there, I don't know if Skylar Thompson's going to be able to throw that ball far enough for Tyreek Hill to catch it, or for him to be able to catch it. I don't think he's going to be able. I think Tyreek's too fast for him, so I guess I'm going to go with Seattle.
All right. I as well will go with Seattle because I picked Miami. They let me down against the Bills. I thought maybe they would shake and move just a little bit more, but it didn't happen as the Bills continue to do Bills things this year. Final one will be Washington against Cincinnati. And guess I'm going to go right back to you.
Ooh, this is a tough one. I think. Yeah, I'm going to go out on a limb. I think Washington's going to win.
All right. Duncan Dad?
Where's the game at? Is it in Washington this week?
This week, I'm almost certain it was in Cincinnati, but I think you're right. I believe it is in Washington. Let me double check. I don't want to make an ass out of everybody because you know what they say. Fuji.
But I'm not the ass, though.
I know. That's what I'm saying, but you love to say it all the time. It makes an ass out of you and me. Paycor Stadium, so yeah, it's going to be in Cincinnati.
Okay. Monday night, you know what? Let me take the Bengals Monday night.
All right. So Duncan Dad. I'm sorry, I had to get the other ones here from the text line coming in as Penguin AZ says the Sea Chickens. So he will take that one. And then Penguin AZ, I need the one for you for Washington, Cincinnati. I know Rick's at Cincy, so Rick is down for Cincy. Fuji, what was yours?
Cincy definitely. Coming off a big loss to Kansas City on the road. Cincy bounces back.
All right. So as I wait, I know Penguin AZ saying he's getting a spinning wheel on the app. It'll come back. Sometimes on the app, depending on the feed, it usually comes in really good. So who knows? The further you are, maybe it's a whole different story. But this one, the same way. I'm kind of torn in between these two teams because the Commanders, God, Dallas lose, Eagles lose. The Commanders are in first place by themselves if they win. Cincy, I would think, would have to win. And I really don't want to go with the Commanders. So for me, I will join the rest of the gang here and say that I will also choose the Bengals at home. Hopefully they won't let anybody down here. They also just got awarded that, I don't know, what was it, freaking $11 billion, what it seems like, on stadium upgrades. So that should help out for the Cincy faithful, for the Bengals faithful, as Gasping Guy had talked about earlier when they talk about that who dat, whatever that other remaining nonsense of whatever they talked about. So, all right, those are the locks of the week. Of course, Penguin AZ, he'll send me his once he figures it out between Washington and Cincy. But before I get into some Eagles talk, Gascon guy, if you have to run, I understand. If you need to jump off, you can go ahead and jump off whenever you need to. Not a building or anywhere else, off the phone. So I don't want anybody to think that I'm telling you to jump off anywhere else.
I don't need to jump off buildings, Angel. The Hurricanes are doing good. The Bucks are doing good. Life is good right now.
Well, then that's definitely a good thing. All right, so Penguin AZ says the Bengals as well. So we have that one. Then I'll get the one from Lady Levon a little bit later on. Don't forget, everyone, if you are playing as well with the Pigskin Picks, if you go to sr1029thegame.com, look on the ESPN Pigskin Pick'ems. If you have joined the league, don't forget, as most of the guys here are on the league, to make your picks for the week. If you missed the one yesterday, that's on you. Don't forget to fill out the rest of your bracket here for the week. Right now, I'm still in first, but trailing not that far behind GPG, I think only by 2 games. So depending how I pick this week and depending how this given Sunday, it could be a swap at first, but we'll end up seeing. Rick says, my pick of the week is the Eagles will be at New Orleans. So yeah, listen, I'll get into that after the break. I do have to pay some bills around here as we've gone a little bit longer. But I'll get into it. And I don't want to harp on the Eagles too much because there's other topics as well that I want to end up bringing up. But it's just, I know it's going to be a disappointment. I know it. I feel it in my bones that this freaking goofy team is just not going to do the right thing, but whatever's. All right. You are listening to Martinez coming here live on a Football Friday, 11:08 here on the East Coast, 8:08 on the left coast. For those who live out there in California and Arizona and other places, we thank you for listening in around the world. Don't forget to download the digital sports app at sr1029thegame.com. Therefore, you won't miss a show. You won't miss the excitement. You guys already know that Dunkin' Dad lives at any Dunkin' that you go to. Just ask for Dunkin' Dad, and they'll give you a Dunkin' Dad special. If you guys want the worst cheesesteak possible, just tell them to give you the Mike Fuji special, and then they'll give you the worst possible cheesesteak out there. So, all right, we're going to take a break. We'll be back here after the break. We'll get into some Eagles talk with Fuji, Dunkin' Dad, and others. I'm pretty sure Rick Marcus will end up chiming in here as well. So we'll get into that and some other things as well, as the Phillies are finding ways to, I don't even know if they want to make it dramatic. I don't know what in the hell is wrong with the Phillies that they just can't put it away. And you guys saw it. Fuji, I just asked you on Monday or Tuesday, excuse me, where I said, are the Phillies going to win a division? There was a question behind that because we're looking. Don't worry.
It's Philadelphia. It's dramatics. Well, dramatics 24/7, 365.
That's exactly.
No matter what team it is.
No.
We can never do anything easy.
They sure can't.
It's always been the remedy of this town.
That's exactly what it's been. All right. Listen, we're going to take a quick break, and I mean this is going to be a super quick break. We'll take a quick break. We'll come back. We'll get in some Eagles talk, some Phillies talk, and obviously preseason hockey is getting ready to get underway this weekend. Lightning, Flyers, Panthers, you name it. Everybody will be getting on the ice as soon hockey season will be coming around. All right. More and that coming up here on Sports Radio 102.9 FM The Game. We'll be right back.
Hi, folks. This is Gerard Moynihan of Moynihan Lumber, and I would like you to know that our company has been selling Anderson windows for over 60 years. See the complete line of Anderson windows at any of our 3 locations in North Reading, Beverly, or in Plastown, New Hampshire, or at MoynihanLumber.com.
What's up, Southwest Florida? Jim and the Beef Guy here. Fort Myers, we answered your call. We're pumped to announce the opening of our 2nd location. It's on 41 just north of the Edison Mall. And guys, nothing's changed here. The beef, the sausage, the breaded steak from Maxwell Polish. Now serving you in 2 locations, Fort Myers and Bonita Springs. And don't forget, if you're having a party, check out our catering menu.
Hey guys, when you're at the counter, don't call it gardenia. It's pronounced Chardonnay.
Phil Castanetti, Sports World in Saugus, Mass. is New England's place to buy or sell the finest in sports memorabilia. For over 35 years, Sports World has offered the finest in sports collectibles. Don't miss the return of the legend, former Bruins goalie Tim Thomas. Tim will be at Sports World on Saturday, October 5th from noon until 2 p.m. Tim will be signing and taking photos. Prices vary, so don't miss this awesome event. Saturday, October 5th at Sports World, 184 Broadway in Saugus, Massachusetts. Call 781-233-7222 for more information. Sports World in Saugus. Be there.
Don't just follow us on the socials. Call or text the show, 727-858-6650, and let us know what's on your mind. Now back to Martinez and Company.
See, this is what happens, right? You come out of the commercial, and what do you get? You get Fuji in the chatter there in the mailroom. See, this is what happens. You try to come back nice and smooth, and then you get Fuji going around inviting everybody. The mayor of City of Philadelphia there, which is Fuji. Welcome back here, Martinez Company here on a Friday, 11/12 here on the East Coast. We are Southwest Florida's newest game in town. Thank you guys for checking us out, not only here, but also on the socials at SR 1029 The Game. Also on CSN Florida, give us a follow there on the socials as well. Don't forget to download the app at sr1029thegame.com. Now, people, here's the funny thing. I make it so super simple when all you have to do is, it's like following the bouncing ball. You click on the home page, and then there's a picture up there with all the devices. If you click on the picture, you can download the app. Oh, and then there right below that, it says the CSN Florida app. You can click on there, and you can download the app. I can't... Other than putting flares, like Duncan Dad, like if we're down on the runway and you get the flashlights and they're guiding the plane in, that's all I need to do now. I have to make a video and basically tell people here, click here. But for those who have, Corey, I say that in jest, but thank you guys for downloading the app. We do appreciate it. And again, I am joined by Duncan Dad, gas pump guy down here from Fort Myers, Fuji up there from Philadelphia, as he is out there in Center City. As we are here on the Football Friday, we got some other topics to cover, but we're going to get into the Eagles here for a minute or two, because again, Nick Sirianni, I think, just in my own opinion, and what do I know, I think Nick Sirianni is starting to show more of his cards, and I think it's just getting to a point now. As Rick Marcus says, I officially have the app on my phone. Rick, I do appreciate it, and those who have downloaded it, because again, not only can you listen to the show live, you can watch the show live, text the show while you're there at 727-858-6650. And then you can also call into the show as well. And then you can make it a party line as we do here on Mondays and Fridays with all the guys. So Nick Sirianni, to me, in my opinion, I think he's coming to an end. Probably not as bad as Chip Kelly as we remember. That was another fatal disaster by the Eagles. But you can kind of see it. The press conferences, I think no one's really entertaining anymore, because honestly, there's nothing he's saying right now that will convince me otherwise. But Fuji, I want to start with you. Again, season ticket holder. You were there on Monday. I mean, all the heavy hitters came out. And then we saw at the end, it only took Atlanta 46 seconds to win that game. If the Eagles have another loss at the expense of the Saints, how much more do you believe that Nick Sirianni's foot, at least the one, is out the door? And of course, I go to Fuji, and what's he do? He probably put me on hold or something else. He's probably out there delivering mail. All right.
I'm here. I'm out a little. Wait, hold on. Can you hear me? Can you hear me now?
Yeah, no. Listen, don't worry. I got all day.
I'm like with you, Angel. I think it's, he stayed on it because the coordinators. Howie's pretty much the man behind the curtain. Of course, I won't come out, but we all know it. But I think he's just on a short leash, and God forbid they go down to New Orleans and get their doors blown off, and they go to Tampa next week. I ain't putting all the blame on Nick, but somebody's got to take the fall. But I think by the bye week he could be in. This could be the beginning of the end.
It very well could be. Duncan Dad?
This is a defining game for this team in week 3. And I think you need to put in perspective that you're not looking at this as it's week 3, right? This is week 9 or week 10, going back to last year. Sure, you put new coordinators in there, but for the most part, your personnel is still the same. You're going into this game, you don't have A.J. Brown. Last week, Dallas Goedert had 1 catch on about 3 or 4 targets the whole game. You figured he'd be more involved in the offense. He was completely absent, which leads you to believe that there's a problem with the protections, a problem with the reads, a problem with the way the quarterback is processing things. You flip the side on the defense. We talked about this all week. There's no stopping that run in the middle. And unfortunately, you're coming into this game versus a team who's really hot right now. The only advantage that the Eagles have is that the Saints haven't played from behind this year whatsoever. So getting up on the board, probably going to be penultimate there in the Eagles' offensive game plan. They're dynamic on offense, the Saints. The defense could be a little suspect. No one's really had a chance to test them. The Cowboys were playing catch up. Week 1, the same thing. Playing the Panthers. The Panthers don't light the world on fire when it comes to offense. Shout out to Bryce Young. But someone will have to pay the piper if this team loses this week. And unfortunately, I think you've got to go with Nick. I mean, I don't see you axing your coordinators 3 games into the year. That's barely time for them to even get into a rhythm to see what their personnel can even do for them. And you can't light a fire underneath someone who doesn't want to have a fire lit for them.
Yep.
Notting, on the other hand, we still don't. We know who you are. No one wants to say who you are, but we know who you are. You're like that half in, half out kind of guy. That's who you are. And he's unfortunately going to be the person, on the chopping block. Now, whether or not Howie and Lori want to carry him for a little bit more, maybe wait to the bye week to see what happens with Tampa, but it will get bad. It will get bad and will get bad real quick. And one thing we know about Philadelphia is that when it gets like that, they act swiftly. Unless, of course, your name is Doc Rivers. Then at that point, you can just you schedule losses, do what you want to do. And, I'm looking across the way at Rob Thompson right now, and I'm like, man, listen, this Taiwan Walker experiment that we got going on, that's coming down from Double D, the other Double D, because there's no way you roll a guy back out like that again. 27, 28 starts this year, and you're just throwing batting practice to people. Come on, man. Come on.
Exactly. Before I play a little audio here from Nick Sirianni, Rick Marcus joins us on our line. He is on the tarmac out there in Tampa as he's guiding a plane out to get ready to take off here. But Rick, sit in, Jess, folks, relax. He's not guiding a plane out and on the phone at the same time. But Rick, thanks for joining us here.
Hey, Angel, how you doing?
Good.
Everybody else, hello.
Hello.
Hello, how you doing?
What's up, man?
Yeah, I just wanted to chime in real quick as far as the opinion with Sirianni. My question would be how much of the blame goes on Vic Fangio with the way that the defense is playing? I didn't see any adjustments last week. I actually saw nothing, and there wasn't any pressure on somebody who sits in the pocket most of the game, if not all the game. So I'm just wondering how much you guys think of Fangio's responsibility.
Yep, that's a good point too, because I was going to talk about it after the audio, but yeah. No, Vic Fangio did nothing. And I think it was almost ESPN Get Up. They were talking about that. You can guess what Vic Fangio has done because he's brought nothing new since even from the last time he was here. You can almost guess as far as, you don't need Belichick anymore. They used to do, I know Patriots fans, you guys say they never cheated. Okay, whatevers. But you don't need a Belichick anymore or his spy cronies because you can see what Vic Fangio is doing. And you're right, Rick, because there was, absolute zero adjustment at all in the second half. And if anything, that cushion defense by MyPillow.com got even worse. Mike Lindell would just be laughing like, are you kidding me? Like my pillows do more than what your coverage is doing right now. So I'm not impressed by Vic Fangio because he gets some of the blame as well. It does go back still to Nick Sirianni, but yeah, Vic Fangio gets it. So Rick, let me throw it back to you real quick here. Do we do a twofer? Do we do then Nick Sirianni and Vic Fangio, or we still just go with Nick Sirianni?
I kind of agree with Duncan, Dad. Sirianni is playing with some, less players that are the stars. So I would definitely give him another chance. I know that they're playing the Saints and the Saints are doing well. The question I have is, can Carr do make the same mistakes that he made when he was with the Raiders? The Eagles had his number. Can they do that again? I know it's a different type of team, but can the Eagles get to Carr again, and will he have a bad game?
Who would you like to add to that?
Oh, Derek Carr, guy was an MVP candidate like 6-7 years ago, and I just, that's the thing. Can they get to him? He got one sack going back to last year for the last 6 games, and I don't know where this pass rush is, but this defensive line is just putrid. And as far as I can't see them. Why would they get rid of Fangio? It's bad enough you fired. You brought in Matt Patricia, and got rid of that. What was his name? Ryan. Can't think.
Brian Johnson.
Anyway, yeah. I mean, to me, it's just like, to me, I'll say this. Bryce off. I don't know what the hell Howie was paying him all that money for.
Me either.
You know, how do you replace Hassan Reddick? 27 sacks in 2 years. So you didn't go out and bring a player like that caliber of production. So it's really, you really didn't replace Hassan Reddick's 27 sacks.
Nope.
Wonder if Big Dom's available.
Jesus, I'm so freaking done with that clown too. That's another thing. That's all I'm
think
worried
he
about.
would work. Why not? Can't be any worse.
Of course it can. I'm tired of the whole thing too. Like, why did you have to promote him? And then he has to, like, when you have to really make yourself notable on TV. Come on, man. It's different, right? Fans. That's what we do as fans. Because hey, look, the camera. Everybody does it. But you're on the field. I don't know how much protection Nick Sirianni needs. I've never seen anybody other head of security out there right next to our head coach, but this is what Eagles fans wanted. You guys got it. You're welcome. To me, I'm just tired of seeing Big Dom everywhere because now it seems like the center of attention has gone to him instead of the Birds. And speaking about the freaking Birds, that defense, to me, here's how you somewhat fix it, right? What is the smallest livestock animal that is the hardest to chase and to catch? Duncan, Dad, I'll ask you.
I talk about the chicken, the rooster.
Correct. So why don't you just put the defense right in a little playpen? Just in a playpen. If you can catch the chicken, you should be able to put the pressure on the quarterback. But last week, I don't know what the hell they were chasing. I told you, it seemed like it was AI figurines out there because there was zero pressure, especially on that last drive. I mean, listen, whatever. It's getting frustrating because what are we doing? It's the money spent by the fans. You know, Jeffrey Lurie talks about, you know, we got one 2017, which now feels like a decade ago. And here we are waiting to see what's going to happen. So you blame the coordinators last year. Okay, fine. They hire new coordinators. Now what? Same problem. Same stinking problem is that we're having again. So I don't know what's going to take to finally put the fire up the Eagles' ass in order to be able to turn around and actually win. New Orleans, to me, this is going to be another big test for the Eagles. And if Washington continues to win, then what my hermano said on the drive with Q at the beginning of the season was the Commanders could possibly end up winning the division. And no one, I don't think, has picked, as far as I checked on any major NFL networks or anywhere else, ever said about the Commanders winning. But who knows what Jaden Daniels is all about? Who knows what Commanders end up doing? All I know is that the Eagles need to fix this. Fuji, I don't know if it was you was trying to chime in.
Yeah, I was going to say not to interrupt, but I mean, this goes back to the preseason. You know, a new scheme. You know, these guys, it could be an excuse. You know, everybody can chime in after this, but you know, these guys didn't play together in preseason. The cohesiveness. I mean, it takes 4 to 6 weeks for these guys to possibly start gelling in the NFL. I mean, you got new players, new schemes, new defensive coordinator. I mean, how do you expect these guys not to come together in week 3? I mean, they should have been, as we said, Angel. I mean, these players should have been out there playing at least a couple series in the preseason.
Correct.
Now everybody's still shaking off the rust.
That's it. I want to bring this audio here real quick. It's about Nick Sirianni on the communication with the offensive coordinator, Kellen Moore, on his play calling during the game. This is credit to Philadelphia Eagles.
Just like it would early in the game, too, to be quite honest with you, because, you know, you're discussing when you're going for it on fourth down, what third down needs to look like in attempts to go for fourth down. Sometimes, you know, third down's played a little differently. Sometimes it's not. And so all those discussions are happening. They're happening, like I said, in the first quarter. They're happening in the fourth quarter. And if Kellen and I are just having that conversation right then, then we've done a job getting ready all week. That conversation happens throughout. That conversation happened today, right, of what we would be thinking in those scenarios. And it's just, hey, remember we said in this scenario, boom, right? So that's something that we prep for all week. And then it's just little reminders within that. And because you're right, like calling the game is one thing, managing the game's another thing, but they have aspects of meshing together.
Yeah, it sounded like Mike McDaniels Jr. is what it sounded like to me. A bunch of nothing.
To me, what comes out of his mouth, just listening to that, is just, I don't know. I just feel like he's just blowing smoke. Like,
that's it.
He's just finding any excuse just to say whatever. Like, and as Philadelphia fans, we're not stupid. We are knowledgeable. We may get criticized around the country about being brutal fans, but we know our stuff. And all that is just a bunch of lip service.
Hey, can I chime in 1 second?
Sure, go ahead.
I just want to make a comment here, and I want to say, why doesn't, whether it's Sirianni or offensive, defensive coordinator, whoever it might be, why don't they ask themselves before they call that play, what happens if it doesn't work? And then see where the balance is. Running the ball at the end of that game would have changed, in my opinion, the whole outcome. People are sitting there blaming Barkley. I don't blame him at all. I don't care if he dropped the pass. The play should have never been called.
Right.
Period.
Right.
You know, you want time off the clock. And it's just like they said, you know, during the game, it's like giving Atlanta an extra timeout. Well, they had no timeout. So why are you giving them extra time to actually do anything at all? That's what I don't understand. So if they would think ahead and say, well, what will the possibilities be if we think ahead, if he drops the ball, if we throw the pass versus if we ran the ball and ran the clock down? Seems like an easy answer to me.
Yep, you're right though, Rick.
Right.
You're absolutely right, but they don't bother to ask. That's the problem. And if you can't communicate that well within your own brass, there's number one problem, because you guys got to figure out how to make the proper adjustments. What's working, what didn't work, how much game footage are you actually watching and paying attention, not just to the play outcome, to listening back to your own broadcast. What are you guys saying to each other in the headsets? All that stuff matters. But for some people, they don't care. Again, Fuji, you had mentioned as well that, Eagles fans, we're very passionate. We're a blue collar town. I know a lot of people hate for the extended version of Eagles talk, but it is what it is. There's a certain expectation in Philly, just like there is in New York, in Chicago, maybe even Idaho. I don't know, for your potatoes. I'm just saying, but there's a certain expectation everywhere. And you just think no different than down here, even Tampa, when it comes to the Bucs. You have to learn how to adjust. And if you're going into practice all week long, and if Gaspon Guy's still with us, he heard me mention last season when it came to Todd Bowles week in, week out would say, we had a good practice was good, we had solid practice, and then the outcome wasn't what the practice was. And that's where it's starting to become too with Nick Sirianni. I just think now Jeffrey Lurie and Howie Roseman, they're going to have to take a deep look, even if they pull off the win, if it's an ugly win, but even if you got to take a look at what you have. And I don't know, again, I could be wrong. And Duncan, Dad, if you want to add to this as well, by all means, go ahead, sir.
No, I think you're absolutely right. I think Fuji's right. I think Rick's right. I think Gas Pump Guy's right. You have to be willing to look at your roster, look at your coordinators, look at the play calls, look what the other team is doing, the in-game adjustments, not after the fact. You need to see if your preparation in the week is actually preparation in the week. A lot of times nowadays, these guys get up, they stroll into practice, they bump into each other for 2-3 minutes, they throw the ball around like it's a little scrimmage, everything's all fine and well. Oh, you hit him so great out of the cut. Oh, those D-lines, they were shutting those gaps down, blah, blah, blah. But you're not practicing. You're not actually engaging. And they're going to tell me, oh, Duncan, yes, we are. We're out there, we're sweating, we're busting our butt, and blah, blah, blah. Well, I don't know if you're going through the motions. I don't know if you're practicing hard, but you're not practicing the fundamental techniques that need to happen.
Correct.
But some of these things, as we all sit here, armchair quarterback, armchair coaches, 2, 3, 4 days later. But you hit on Hassan Reddick earlier. Attitude, okay. You don't want to pay him, okay. But right now, you'd love to have an edge setter, right? Because the only adjustment that Fangio did during the game was that after they kept blowing them up on the run up front, finally, I think it was like midway through the third, he was like, you know what? Instead of running Braun as a Mike linebacker in the middle, I'm going to step him up on an edge. Okay, that's fine. So I inevitably, what I did was I gave away one side of the line, right? So you're going to have to run right. I'm going to let you run right, but you're not going to come on the defensive side, right? You're not going to run off right tackle for the offense. You're going to make you run off left tackle. So the change, or what you hope happens with New Orleans, and from a coach perspective, is you need to put 6 people in that box. Now, like you said, This is my box, right? We're going to play in this box, play in this box, play in this box. You could take the linebackers, move them out. You can move them in. You can move them out, move them in. But you can't ask those 4 guys up front to do anything else except for hold that line. If you happen to get through and you can pressure the quarterback, phenomenal. But you need to hold that line, stop that run. And you're hoping that this Fugazi extra linebacker that you're going to bring in is going to hold an edge on the right side because Braun seems to do all right? But at that point, that means you're looking at your veterans and you're like, Darius, CJ, Lance, you guys actually need to play defense on the backside. Not this little handsy-offy, look at me, blah, 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 sissy la kind of stuff. You got to get up on these guys. You got to bust your bottom. And I'm going to trust that my backside 4, or if we're lucky, we put a dime guy in the center, you guys are going to go to the ball. You're not going to play off. You're not going to look at them go by. You're not play this grabby-ass hands game. You're actually going to have to play some defense. And you see these teams that have had success in week 1. All of their players are engaging. It does Tampa Bay when they shut down the last drive. These guys got 2 linebackers. They don't care who's getting to the quarterback. Same thing with Chicago. They don't care who's getting to the quarterback, who's disrupting stuff. One guy's clipping in, taking out 2 guys, so this guy comes around the backside, or the push and pressure. You have got to be in sync with these guys. And right now, there's no sync. There's nothing. Nobody honestly knows what they're doing on that defense. They really don't. They really don't know what they're doing. They know the position, and they practice real hard during the week, and they prep. Dude, if you prep that well during the week, there should be some execution on Sunday or Monday or Sunday night or whatever it is. It's just not there.
Yep.
It's not there. And it has to be addressed. And if it's not going to be addressed, then you might as well, you're going to win 7 games this year, take an early Christmas vacation.
That's pretty much it. But I'm going to finish up with this here, and I'm going to move on to the other topics as well that I had on hand earlier on. But the Eagles right now, the best way to describe that defense, you know how you had the jack in the box, you wind it up, and then it would pop out? That's like the Eagles. You're winding them out, nothing pops out because they're all looking like, oh, who's supposed to pop out? Is it supposed to be us? It's the best way to kind of describe the defense right now until we'll see otherwise. So I want to get quickly everybody's take here as far as who they believe are winning. It's obviously part of the pigskin pick 'em picks, but not for our weekly 5. But Gasping Guy, who wins this one, Saints or Eagles?
Well, I'm going to go back on my word that I said last time about not picking in my division, but I think the Saints run game is going to be too much for the defensive line of the Eagles. So I'm going with the Saints.
Okay. Fuji?
I knew you were going to get I knew that was coming. Oh, man. I hate to go against the grain, but I'm just afraid Alvin Kamara is going to run roughshod. I'm going with the Saints.
Okay. Rick?
I'm going to proceed with caution, and I'm actually going to roll the dice with the Eagles.
All right. Duncan Dad?
My head says Saints. My heart says Eagles. But I'm gonna go with Rick. I think that this, like I said, this is there in my opinion, and we don't like to have make or break games this early in the season. But they're either gonna do something or nothing. So I'm gonna go with the Eagles with a lot of apprehension.
Okay. If Penguin AZ is still listening in, I'll wait for his pick as well. But then, along with that, I would love to see the Eagles turn it around. But my gut is telling me that the Saints, and I talked about it on Pete's show this morning, that the Saints are just going to be a little bit too much for the Eagles. So unfortunately, I will go against the grain as well, and I'm going to take as Penguin AZ. Surprising enough, he says he's going with the Eagles on that one. So thank you, Penguin AZ, for that one. But to me, I think the Saints are just going to prove to be just a bit too much, just in my opinion here. Joey B says, Fuji in the French Quarter, let's effing go. Miller Lights and an umbrella. Usually it's about, normally it's about, Walla Hoagies and stuff, but he switched it up. Joey B, thank you also as well for joining the show here. All right, I'm going to take a quick break. Coming back from the break, I want to play the audio bite of Aaron Rodgers and a quick video from it as well. Talk about that weird thing, whatever it is that you want to call. Yes, going with the birds as Penguin AZ chimes in. But that weird, yes, the Patriots were lost last night, Jets ended up winning, but that weird exchange, whatever it was, we'll get into that. Also about the White Sox as they continue to just do White Sox things, which is absolutely nothing. And obviously the Phillies finding ways to struggle to win. We saw what the Dodgers did. We talked about Davy Jones, and he mentioned that, right, they've now gone into the postseason for guys who have never been there, that welcome to the postseason. It's a whole different dynamic. So we'll get into that and a couple other things here before we quickly have to wrap up the show. It is 11:37 here on Martinez & Company. Thank you all for listening in, not only on the app, and if you have not downloaded it yet, please do so at sr1029thegame.com. Somebody's phone, I think, is either on speaker or echoing kind of really bad here, so I don't know exactly who it is, but it's coming through. But thank you all for downloading the app. We do appreciate it. Don't forget, you can visit sr1029thegame.com. And after the break, we'll get into it just a little bit more. You're listening to Martinez coming here on Sports Radio 102.9 FM The Game. We'll be right back.
Hi, folks. This is Gerard Moynihan of Moynihan Lumber, and I would like you to know that our company has been selling Anderson windows for over 60 years. See the complete line of Anderson windows at any of our 3 locations in North Reading, Beverly, or in Plastown, New Hampshire, or at MoynihanLumber.com.
What's up, Southwest Florida? Chicken and Beef Guy here. Fort Myers, we answered your call. We're pumped to announce the opening of our second location. It's on 41 just north of the Edison Mall. And guys, nothing's changed here. The beef, the sausage, the breaded steak, our Maxwell Polish. Now serving you in 2 locations, Fort Myers and Bonita Springs. And don't forget, if you're having a party, check out our catering menu.
Hey guys, when you're at the counter, don't call it gardenia. It's pronounced Chardonnay.
Phil Castanetti, Sports World in Saugus, Mass. is New England's place to buy or sell the finest in sports memorabilia. For over 35 years, Sports World has offered the finest in sports collectibles. Don't miss the return of the legend, former Bruins goalie Tim Thomas. Tim will be at Sports World on Saturday, October 5th from noon until 2 p.m. Tim will be signing and taking photos. Prices vary, so don't miss this awesome event. Saturday, October 5th at Sports World, 184 Broadway in Saugus, Massachusetts. Call 781-233-7222 for more information. Sports World in Saugus. Be there.
Download the Sports Radio 102.9 FM The Game app and tell your friends that Florida has a new leader in digital sports radio.
Welcome back here as we're getting close to the final segment of the show. 11:39 here on the East Coast. I'm joined here by Duncan Dad, Mike Fuji. I know Rick Marcus and Gaspon Guy had to jump off the line. Thank those guys. They said thank you for having them on the show. We do appreciate you guys when you call in. So here is the exchange last night. Everybody saw the exchange, but what the weird part was is that Aaron Rodgers now explaining, as Mike Fuji still on the line with us here, but Aaron Rodgers and this, whatever he wants to call it, but here's the explanation by Aaron Rodgers.
No, it's not an awkward. You picked to push him away then when he went to hug you. What happened? I didn't know. He's not a big hugger usually, so I didn't know he was going for the hug.
Apparently it's too low, so nobody's going to be able to hear that. But apparently from what he said is that Salah is not a hugger. But call me crazy. And Duncan, that was that not what Robert Salah was trying to do last night?
Yeah, I think he was just trying to embrace his quarterback, trying to build a little bit of on-field camaraderie in the moment. I don't think there's anything malicious about it.
I don't think so either, but I just find it, I don't know. I think I get more and more annoyed, I guess, with Aaron Rodgers because I understand whatever you want to make it about you. You're 4 years old, you come back, injury, blah, 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 all the good, happy horse crap. But at the same time, too, it's like, okay, so he's trying to just kind of pump you up and say, hey, welcome back. You finally got the touchdown. You're doing better. We're hoping to do good things here in New York. But I don't know. It's just a weird exchange. Fuji, did you happen to catch that weird exchange last night?
Yeah, I mean, I saw it, and I don't know. I don't know what's up with Aaron Rodgers. Always did like him, but his attitude in New York, it's just you look at his body language last week. To me, it's just his attitude. To me, just sucks. I mean, how many times have coaches hug players, hug quarterbacks? I don't know. To me, I just think he was just a fool about the whole thing. It's just the attitude. Embrace it. Spade was the coach, the head coach, like you said, Duncan Dad camaraderie. Like, you just push the guy away. Like, to me, that was just a total move.
I think
to me,
completely.
like I said, I think Rodgers is a stone tool. I'd like to say something else, but I won't. I don't know if I could say it, but I'll keep it at PG.
All right. Well, here's, before I get Duncan Dad's thoughts here, but here's Robert Salah's version of what happened last night.
There was that awkward exchange with you and Robert. You appeared to push him away.
No, it was not really awkward at all.
You appeared to push him away when he went to hug you. What happened?
I didn't know. He's not a big hugger, usually, so I didn't know he was going for the hug. He likes to do the two-hand chest push as well. So, but he talks a lot about 2-score leads. So I just kind of gave him a push and said 2-score lead. That's what happened.
What happened in the second quarter? Looked like you went up and tried to give Aaron Rodgers a hug there.
Oh, yeah. He, part of the things that we've been talking about is to just get the defense a 2-score lead, and it was a 2-score lead. So I guess he just wanted to see something on defense. So
okay. I don't know. I'm not sold.
Let's go to our next segment.
Go ahead, Fuge.
I was going to say, I think there's more. I don't know. There's just more to it. I don't know. His attitude to me, like, he really don't want to be there. That's just my opinion.
Duncan?
Yeah, so Salah's a good defensive coach, right? And he's been given a really good young defensive unit. Last year, the expectation, having Rodgers come in and be the Messiah, basically the second coming of Joe Namath, having that fall off the cliff 4 plays into the game or into the year, really put a lot of pressure on Salah. And I think this was the first time that he was able to watch Rodgers sort of be who Aaron Rodgers was expected to be. Attitude and stuff aside, quarterback, he gets you your 2 touchdown lead, he gets your 2-score lead. He's sort of remind you, like, hey, I'm still in the game, like let's hold it now. Like, I'm giving you your lead, you guys hold on to it. Because Rodgers is watching this team as well, right? He watched this team from the sideline. He's watching them this year as well, and he's like, we still got to fix this stuff to fix that. And Rodgers isn't your rah-rah dude, right? We spoke about this ad nauseum preseason. We spoke about this, during the warm-ups. He's not that guy that's going to run around high-fiving everybody, chest bumping. It's not his mentality. That's not who he is. For Salah, though, I think in that moment it was sort of this decompression of like, oh my God, thank you. Like I finally have what I need on the offensive side of the ball. And in that moment, Rodgers sort of just reminded him, like, yo, dude, like we haven't even begun to do what we're supposed to do here. Obviously, it's all over Salah's face when he's trying to make the comments afterwards, like, oh, okay, yeah, like stumbling over his words. But, as Aaron Rodgers goes, that's the way that team is going to go.
Fuji, real quick.
I totally agree with you, Duncan Dad. It's just, Spalla, being on his 4th year, being on the hot seat, which I believe he probably is, and, just some relief of, all right, New England's New England, but it was a nice blowout win, divisional win, and I'm sure it's like you said, 4 plays in the last year, Rodgers went down, and that team fought Claw last year, but they didn't get in the playoffs. But finally, it's like maybe some light at the end of the tunnel for Robert's favor. Spalla, can't say his name. But, just some relief for him, I'm sure.
By the way, Joey B throwing some throwback here. He says, Salah and Rodgers equaled just as awkward as Fuji versus the Indianapolis Colts fan exchange on the show a couple years ago. Fuji is undefeated against the Colts fans. For those, as he follows up with, Angel needs to break out the archives and show that Fuji versus Colts fan epic content. Yeah, that was a couple years ago with Michael, and I've reached out to him, and he's yet to get back to me, so I'm not too sure if he's still hosting his own podcast or not. So I'll wait and see. But yeah, that was, if for those who first of all, if you're new to the show, thank you for tuning in to Martinez and Company here Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 10 to 12. But so it was, it's got to be at least about 2 years ago now, where Eagles, Colts were getting ready to play. There was a debate with Mike, one of the guys who does such a phenomenal job at his own podcast. And he got screwed over by a former company he was with, decided to do his own thing. And Fuji reached out to him. We had a great time. These two were like breakdancing, but with words. If you guys would ever see it and trying to picture that, if you're listening in on the radio, it's probably the better way I can explain it because so it was Mike versus Mike, but Colts Mike was throwing it to Fuji and telling Fuji like, okay, your turn. Fuji in return is now throwing out the 1985 to 1990 break moves and then spinning it, throwing it, chucking it up, and throwing it back to Mike. It was so epic of them going back and forth. It was hilarious. I got to try and see if I can find it and maybe bring it up come next week. But it was funny to see both of them kind of going back and forth. But it was funnier because it was Mike from the Colts. Like he would cross his arms, literally, it looked like a breakdancing move to tell Fuji, okay, you're up. But it was, that's a good throwback by you, Joey B. And then Joey B follows up with, Fuji is the guy at Chick-fil-A drive-thru on a Sunday morning banging on his dashboard because you forgot they're closed on Sundays. That's that. It would not be far-fetched.
That was a classic stand-off.
It was. That was really good. There were some great moments. There was a lot of great moments. If you guys go back and look at the archives on the website or even go to YouTube, and you guys can end up seeing a lot of the archive stuff that we went through and a lot of the great guests that we had on the show as well and that we'll continue to get here. As once you make the transition from the night to day, literally, it's a little bit harder with people's schedules, but hopefully we'll get some more people here in the future as I have to obviously maneuver many shows. So it makes it a little bit hard for me to line up folks. But next week, hopefully I will have a couple guests on, Coach Brown, hopefully Anna Sutter from the USF women's soccer team, and also with Sarita Thurton. So we'll have, and there will be more coming up as the season progresses. Okay, now quickly, also that I want to get into, which is it worth the Sixers to spend $192 million on Joel? I don't show up for playoffs, Embiid, and Duncan Dad, I'll go over to you first.
Oh my goodness. I guess that's the market, right?
Yeah.
The market's gonna command it.
Yeah.
And they keep floating around this idea. Now they got an investment, $1 billion privately funded. They're gonna try to build a stadium downtown. They're gonna push the people from Chinatown out a little bit. They're gonna coax it over. Listen, the theory is wonderful. There is so much infrastructure that would have to be built along with that stadium, that arena, whatever you want to call it. I don't see the feasibility of that happening. But in order to do that, you got to have your guy. So I'm sure as soon as Embiid heard that this thing is going through or they're looking at it, he walked right in to Maury's office and he's like, look, you show me the money. Yeah. Is he worth it? Is he MVP player? Yeah, sure he is. When he's fully healthy and he's dominating, he's doing his thing. Sure. I mean, he's worth that kind of money in today's NBA. I guess so. I mean, they got guys making 150 that, one or two All-Star selections. But hey, not my cup of tea, man. Not my cup of tea. It's my opinion, it's one of the most overpriced, overvalued of the big four sports. You put 82 games, you're all over, you got your playoffs. The viewership only gets really good when you get into the playoffs. No one's sitting around watching the Dallas Mavericks versus the Oklahoma City people playing in the middle of November, except for the Dallas people and the Oklahoma City people. It's not happening. You can sell it to me all you want. It's not happening. Yeah, they made $15 billion in revenue. Of course they did. You're throwing that kind of money around. You have to make revenue off that, just by showing up, just by turning the lights on. But 3 years, $194 million. Is it worth it? Yeah, I guess it's worth it. It's worth it.
Yeah, for the fans that are going to be paying for it, I mean,
Sure.
I guess that'd be worth it. But I mean, you're starting to tie your hands even more of what you need to do. I mean, great, we got Paul George. That's wonderful. I'm glad that we did. Problem is that if you need other help off the bench, now you're going to have to get basically whatever's left over within your budget, for that matter.
You're asking Tyrese Maxey, Joel Embiid to coexist, run everything. Which okay, they play different spots, which is fine. And now here comes Paul George. Listen, the one thing about basketball is that there's only one basketball. The minute that someone is not doing the small stuff on the backside, in the corners, where nobody's watching, you can have all the talent in the world. You can have all the talent in the world.
Pooji?
Oh, I mean, the talent of Embiid is phenomenal, but the question is about him staying healthy. I mean, at this point of his career, it's, I would have pulled the plug probably within another year or so, but you went out, spent all this money on Paul George, which another guy just doesn't seem like he could stay healthy either. Hopefully, this Sixers team will get it together within the next year or two. But to me, I don't know. I think it's getting to that point where you just tear it all down and build around Maxey because he's your future. Paul George is 34. Needs, just the injuries have been piling up for years. The windows to me just about shut. You threw the money out to get a third guy in here, and since they should have never traded Jimmy Butler, but it's I don't see if this team doesn't go within the next year or two, it's a wash.
You still have to beat Indiana. You still have to beat the Knicks. You still have to beat the Celtics.
Yep.
You don't match up against those teams. So you're paying someone to put bacon in the seats so you stay somewhat, competitive. If they haven't shown you anything that says they're going to beat Boston, they're not going to beat Boston. They're not going to beat the Knicks. And the Knicks, a couple trades, did it through the draft, signed the guys that they need to sign. It just the whole problem with the process was that the residual effects are happening to this day. And everyone says, oh, no, it doesn't. They've moved on from that. This process is over. Foods, you're right. There was a window for about 2, maybe 3 years where they could have punched through. They ran into a hot Toronto team, and they ran into Boston again. Right. And jettison Jimmy Butler on the hopes that Ben was going to be the guy. Come on, man. All these things. I've had countless conversations with people on X the last couple of days, Upper Bowl podcast with Trevor. People are paying these guys and hanging their hats on these guys on the fact that, man, you put up a lot of stats. Your numbers look amazing. Oh, man, you're scoring all these touchdowns, dropping all these points. You're the guy. You're the guy. You know what doesn't lie? The eye test in sports never lies. It never lies. How many scores did we see in the NBA growing? Tons. Tons of people scoring ball. Who was the only scorer you could really, really trust? Magic, Jordan, Bird. And what happened? Championship, finals, championship, finals. Why? Because the eye test doesn't lie. These premier guys make every single person around them better. Nobody knew who the heck Michael Cooper was. Nobody knew who John Paxson was. Craig Hodges. Come on, man. Get beyond yourself. Now you put all these little super teams together, and when you get a good mix, like Boston has on their team, you get value for that. Because why? Because everybody's willing to do their job, play their role. And no one's walking in there and saying, I want the sky to fall on me, give me all this money. It's the one thing that I will always go back and give Brady credit for. He walked in and said, what do we need to win? Okay, take it out of my contract. Make it longer on the backside. I don't care. Get the guys that we need for this. And a lot of times you would get players, you would get guys, and they weren't the marquee dude. But my goodness, he was going to set an edge. My goodness, he was going to hold the line. He was going to do his job. That's what it's about. And you pay these guys all they want, but it's just showing more and more. Business of sports, business of sports, business of sports.
Yep, it is. And by the way, Penguin EZ said, is the money guaranteed even with the injuries for Embiid? Yes, it is guaranteed. And Embiid put out there on Instagram, looks like, Philadelphia is home. I want to be here for the rest of my career. I love this community and everything you've given me and my family. There is a lot more work to do. You guys deserve a championship, and I think we're just getting started. Trust the process. We're just getting started. How many years have you been already on the team? But we're just getting started. You guys deserve a championship. Does that not sound like Dak Prescott? The same thing with the VCR. What is the Dallas Cowboys? Sounds identical. Same exact thing, which drives me more bananas. And I want to get to two more stories here before we end up getting done here with the show. Joey B says, how is that going to work with the new arena in Philly? Isn't that really a small, tight section of downtown Philly, Chinatown? Seems like a nightmare logistically getting in and out of there. It is. We talked about it on Tuesday, how it is going to be pretty much, it's going to be such a tight squeeze, but they're going to have to treat it the same way like the Orioles do for Baltimore, where they allow some of the companies exit out early. Now, I'm not 100% certain anymore. The way it used to be was the Orioles would pay X amount of dollars to these companies to allow their employees to get out a little bit earlier because they needed the parking if it was a day game. Now, it could be where the companies now maybe have their people come in earlier so they can leave earlier during the day. I'm not too sure. But Philly would have to work out some crazy deal like that, saying that, listen, we need the parking, so can you guys figure out, the logistics with us on how we're going to make it happen? So that's going to be quite the mess that's coming up. But I wanted to bring up before I end up closing out the show here, because Britt Garoli, let me go back to this one here from Foul Territory. She's talking about here about the Chicago White Sox, which my wife is a great fan of. Penguin EZ says, wow, great points, Duncan Dad. I am right with you. Too many Chiefs and not enough Indians on most basketball teams. Yeah, which is it's absolute truth. But I want to bring this up because I know I have to quickly get ready to close out the show here. This is Britt Garoli, and she talks about how the White Sox are just in such, it's not even dysfunction. It's basically blow it up and just toss it out. But she wants to know about what happens not only in the dugout, but what happens on a plane as well.
Ken and I kept hearing about the plane over and over again. And then finally Ken got just the devastating anecdote that leads the story where, a new player gets on the plane and they look around and they're like, no show plane, and everyone kind of laughs. But it really is kind of indicative of, like you said, they don't do the big things right, which is okay, fine. But then you have to do the little things right. Every player that comes out of Tampa talks about how Tampa does the little things right, how they treat their families, the amenities, the coaches. We mentioned that this year the White Sox have kind of a developmental coach, a fourth coach, if you will, at each affiliate. That was something that Chris Getz, to his credit, tried several years ago, met resistance on. These are the kind of small things that you need to do if you're not going to invest at the big league level. You need to try to win at the margins, like you said. So yes, things like the plane, the team's family room was another thing that came up a lot. That did finally this past year in our reporting, it was uncovered, that got upgraded. But that was another thing that guys complained about all the time. It was out of date. It wasn't up to par compared to other organizations. These are things that are definitely first world problems, except when guys are coming to the stadium and they dread going to the games and they know they're going to get just their brains beat in every night. Knowing that the organization cares about them and their families on a human level, I think matters to a lot of guys. I think it makes it a little bit more easier to deal with, a little more palpable, knowing, hey, they care, they're trying to turn this thing around. And, the White Sox didn't really have any of that, not in the almost 40 people that we talked to. It didn't seem like they truly made these guys feel like, yeah, we're not winning right now, but we still care about you as a person.
The hard truth there. A hard truth, right? Because if it's that dysfunctional, and I mean, I know most of the teams try to obviously get a private plane, therefore they're not being bugged by anyone. You're out walking through, first class, back to the back of the plane, middle of the plane, first half of the plane, whatever. But the White Sox, are they the old Baltimore Orioles, Duncan Dad?
They're even worse than the Baltimore Orioles. I think the way that they're playing right now, the way that things are being handled, I have likened back to the Municipal Stadium days there in Cleveland. Like it's really, really bad. And, Reinsdorf, the parallel I'm going to make is he's like the bizarro half-step brother of Jerry Jones. He's 88 years old. He's a billionaire. And whereas Jerry wants to just spend without any sort of recompense or due diligence, i.e., like, again, paying Prescott the kind of money you're paying for him, and but not making other changes, right? I don't know, man. It doesn't leave you a lot of wiggle room. He's very frugal. He was confused. He was not confused. He was criticized when he owned the Bulls. He was part chairman on the Bulls. He wouldn't even acquiesce some of the things that Phil Jackson, Johnny Kerr, Michael Jordan brought to his attention to sort of, further along the old Chicago Stadium, right? It wasn't until finally he got to a point where it was like, hey, the Bulls won a couple championships now. We need a new place. So boom, enter United Center, right? But with Kaminsky, old Kaminsky, now with the new park with what's called Guaranteed Rate Field, right? He's just letting it go. Like he was good managing money middle part of the 80s, knew he had to make an investment early 90s. But now, I mean, he's in cruise control, dude. He's 88 years old. He's shutting it down. He's got his billions. Kids don't want anything to do with it. I don't know. It's a shame because Chicago's such a good baseball city. The White Sox do have a storied history. Again, like, bottom line, you have to think about this, right? Would there ever be a point where they take the White Sox out of Chicago? I mean, you keep playing like this. I don't know. It's something you have to think about, because there's prime areas looking for baseball teams. Nashville always comes up, right? The return, out to the West Coast always comes up. Like, all right, maybe we need to blow this thing up. Maybe we need to, contract this league again. I don't know. It's just it's not a good story right now, Chicago. And to hear the athletes finally come out and say something after all this time just shows you how much of a heavy thumb he had on the organization, on the coaches, on the contracts, on the day-to-day operations. Because you go to work and you're like, I don't want to piss the boss off, right? Like, I'm just going to keep my mouth shut. I'm just going to go through the motions. And it is unfortunate, everything that's sort of surfaced with this. But it surprised me as an ex-Chicago guy, hearing Reinsdorf name attention to not spending money or not wanting to go above and beyond. No, I'm sure Debbie would say the same thing.
Yep. Yeah, because the fans, I mean, they showed up. There was all but 10 or 15, what it was not too long ago, where, they showed up at for, like Debbie says, at Comiskey Park, but I forgot what it is. First blowed up Bank Stadium, first rate, guaranteed rate.
Guaranteed rate.
Yeah, that's what
guaranteed it is. L if you're the home team.
Exactly. So maybe they also, you know what? Sometimes even find, and I'm pretty sure Guaranteed Rate as a sponsor, they probably figure like, Jesus, how much money can we lose? And I'm not picking on Guaranteed Rate. Don't think I'm picking on you guys as a sponsor. But at the same time too, like, how much money as a sponsor can you push and push and push out and barely get anything in your investment in return? So it may be Guaranteed Rate might say, you know what, guys, sorry, but we're out because we can't do this anymore. We've been paying all this money out, and then, I mean, what else were we supposed to do? It happens in NASCAR. NASCAR, you got an organization that'll come in, they pay X amount of, and it's expensive as all hell to put in a sponsorship with NASCAR. But at the same time, too, if they see nothing but loss after week after week after season, they're out as well. So, Fuji, I don't know if you had some quick thoughts as we close out the show here about the Chicago White Sox.
Oh, I think it's, what was it, 05, 06, they won a World Series. I mean, up until really maybe, how bad they are this year, I mean, they've had some winning seasons. I mean, they basically have given players away. I guess they're not, I mean, if you look at the Orioles, the Orioles really, now you got a phenomenal minor league system where, Angelos just passed away, and I heard for the last couple of years, like, the family's been fighting over the ownership. And, I would say up until now, like, the Orioles haven't won nothing since '83 when they beat the Phillies.
Right.
I don't know. I don't think the White Sox are as, all right, the last couple of years and this year, but I don't think the White Sox really have been as bad. Matter of fact, kind of have followed the White Sox over the years. Like I know they're like the stepchild, between them and the Cubs, but I don't know. Like, hopefully the Orioles, they'll, turn it around. I mean, they had the last couple of years, but the White Sox, I don't know. I mean, something's got to give, like you said, Duncan Dad. The ownership is, he's older, 88 years old. Like, I don't know if the White Sox will ever move out of Chicago, but you probably got to get some family in there or some new blood, turn that franchise around.
All right, quickly.
That's my take.
Ozzie Guillen, should he come back? Yes or no?
Ozzie Guillen was great, but he couldn't relate to these guys today. It's like Larry Bauer, same error, cut from the same cloth, like, try to light a fire under, trying to light a fire under these players today. It just don't happen. Look at Joe Girardi. He didn't last in Philly. That era's changed. I mean, you need a guy like, Rob Thompson, laid back, just, let these guys just do what they want. I mean, that's just all sports today. The inmates run the asylum.
Yep, it's unfortunate, but that's exactly what it is. All right, listen, thank you to everyone who tuned in today. We do appreciate it. Thank you for those who listen around the world in Finland, France, Afghanistan, Pakistan, over in Australia. Hello and welcome. Those who, as we're now starting to edge into Africa, we thank you, especially here stateside, all across the U.S. We appreciate everyone who tunes in. Don't forget to download the app if you have not done so far. You can go to sr1029thegame.com directly on the homepage. You guys go there, download the app so you won't miss a show. Also, you can visit our sponsors thanks to moynihanlumber.com, jimmythebeefguy.com, our newest sponsor with Sports Collectibles, sportscollectibles-usa.com. Everyone is up there on the website so you guys can visit, patronize them. We would greatly appreciate it. So would they as well. Don't forget also for the USF women who are on the road, their next game will be Thursday, 7 o'clock against FAU out there in Boca Raton. And then they're back home September 29th versus Memphis. That'll be Alumni Day. And don't forget the men, USF football men, are playing Miami U, yes, the Hurricanes, this Saturday. Ray J, 7 o'clock, I will be there for the coverage. So I will see those out there maybe tailgating and walking around and stuff. But thank you to Penguin AZ, Rick Marcus, Joey B, Duncan Dad, Mike Fuji, and everyone else who made their comments and put in their texts. We do appreciate it. We want everyone to enjoy their weekend. We hope that maybe the Eagles will walk away with a win. I doubt it. So does almost the rest of the panel as well. So we shall see. But nonetheless, thank you all. We appreciate it. Have a great weekend, and we will see you all on Monday.
And go Birds. Go Birds.
Of course, you would say go Birds at the very end there, jackass. That's all right. We got it.
You love us.
Of course.
Missed the snide comments.
That's all right.